She felt broken and alone. Until the millionaire whispered, "I will protect you." Hey there, welcome back to Stories TH. Today we've got an incredible millionaire story that will surprise you. So buckle up, because things might get a little wild, but in the best way possible. Before we dive in, don't forget to hit that like button and subscribe if you haven't already. We love hearing from you, so drop a comment telling us where you're watching from and what time it is in your part of the world. It's always fun to see how far our story reaches. Now, get comfy, take a deep breath, and let's enjoy this amazing journey together. The Abandoned Bride. Emma Reynolds stood alone in the bridal suite, the soft glow of the early morning sun filtering through the sheer curtains and casting delicate patterns on the cream-colored walls. The air smelled faintly of lilies and freshly polished wood, a stark contrast to the storm raging inside her chest. Her trembling fingers clutched the pearl earrings, her grandmother's last gift, nestled delicately in their velvet box. The pearls were cool to the touch, smooth as her memories of that warm, laughing woman who had raised her, the one steady anchor in a sea of uncertainty. She slowly lifted the earrings, the tiny clasp clicking as she secured them to her ears. Each pearl caught the light, reflecting a soft glow. "For good luck," her grandmother had said on her wedding day long ago, though Emma had never imagined she'd be standing here without the man she was supposed to marry. The ivory wedding gown hugged her slender figure perfectly, its delicate beadwork shimmering faintly as she moved. She caught her reflection in the ornate mirror, a vision of elegance and fragility all at once. The dress, the pearls, the carefully styled hair, all of it meant to celebrate love, hope, and new beginnings. Yet here she was, alone, 30 minutes away from walking down the aisle to a future that seemed to be slipping away with every tick of the clock. Through the window, Emma watched the garden outside slowly fill with guests. They chatted excitedly, unaware of the drama unfolding just feet away. The gentle hum of laughter and clinking glasses floated in, an ironic soundtrack to her unraveling world. She imagined their eyes scanning the church pews, waiting for the groom she had promised to love forever. But Lucas Gray was nowhere to be seen. Her best friend Ava sat quietly beside her, her phone now silent and face down on the vanity table. "He's still not answering," Ava said softly, worry creasing her brow. Emma nodded, swallowing hard against the lump rising in her throat. "I don't think this is just a delay," she whispered, her voice cracking under the weight of certainty she wished she didn't feel. It had been weeks of small signs, Lucas growing distant, distracted, his kisses no longer warm but rushed and empty. Emma had pushed the doubts aside, blaming nerves, cold feet, the stress of planning a wedding. But now, with the clock mercilessly counting down, those doubts screamed louder than ever. "I'm sure it's just nerves, Em. Men get cold feet," Ava tried to reassure her, though her eyes betrayed her own fears. "You know Lucas. He wouldn't do this." Emma shook her head slowly, the hollow ache inside her deepening. "He won't be here. He's not coming." The room seemed to close in around her. The walls that had once promised a sanctuary now felt like a cage, trapping her in a nightmare she couldn't escape. Her breath caught, and a single tear slipped down her cheek, leaving a trail in the flawless makeup she'd spent hours perfecting. The tear reminded her of the crocodile sunscreen incident on their first beach vacation, a silly moment that now felt like a distant echo of happier times. Suddenly, the bridal suite door swung open, and both women turned sharply, hope flickering briefly in Emma's eyes. But instead of the smiling groom, a tall, imposing figure filled the doorway. He was broad-shouldered and unmistakably a Gray, with piercing blue eyes that seemed to see straight through her. Ethan Gray, Lucas's older brother and the family's enigmatic billionaire heir, stood there, his expression unreadable. Emma barely recognized the man who had always seemed like a shadow looming over family gatherings, cold and distant, someone who barely acknowledged her existence. Now, he looked like the last piece of a puzzle she never wanted to solve. "Ethan," Emma's voice was barely above a whisper, fragile and shaken. "Where's Lucas?" He stepped inside and closed the door behind him with deliberate finality. The large room, once filled with light, suddenly felt smaller, weighed down by his presence. "Lucas isn't coming," Ethan said flatly, his voice low and controlled. 3 words that shattered Emma's world. Her knees buckled, and Ava caught her, shooting Ethan a fierce glare. "What do you mean he's not coming? Where is he?" Ethan's jaw tightened. "He left the city early this morning. Sent me this." He held out his phone, displaying a text message that stabbed at Emma's heart like a knife. "I can't do this. Tell Emma I'm sorry. I need time to think." Emma's world spun. The man she had trusted, the man she had believed loved her, had abandoned her on the most important day of her life. "He left me," she whispered, the words burning her throat. Ethan's bluntness was almost cruel. "My brother has always been a coward." A sharp, bitter laugh escaped Ava's lips. "Well, congratulations. You're quite the hero then, stepping in at the last minute." Ethan didn't respond, but the tension in the room thickened. Emma's artist hands, hands that brought life to canvas and curated masterpieces, now clutched helplessly at the folds of her wedding dress. She looked at Ethan, searching for any sign that this was some cruel joke. "You don't have to tell anyone," Ethan said suddenly, his deep voice sending an unexpected shiver down her spine. "You don't have to announce the truth." "What?" Emma blinked, confused. "There's another option," Ethan said, stepping closer. Ava instinctively moved protectively in front of Emma, eyes narrowing. "This isn't the time for whatever you're about to suggest," she warned. Ethan's gaze locked on Emma's face. "I'll marry you instead." The words hung in the air, absurd and impossible. Emma stared at him, sure she'd misheard. "That's not funny," she finally managed, her voice trembling. "It's not meant to be." His expression remained serious, those blue eyes boring into hers with an intensity that made her breath catch. "The guests are seated, the minister is ready, everything is arranged." "You're insane," Ava scoffed. "Emma, don't listen to him." But Emma couldn't look away from Ethan's face. There was something there, determination, calculation, and something deeper she couldn't name. "Why would you do that?" she asked softly. "The gray name means something," Ethan replied. "But there's more." His eyes flickered, hinting at secrets. "Lucas disgraced the family by abandoning you. I'm offering a solution that saves you from humiliation and preserves what little dignity is left." Emma's anger flared. "That's your reason? Family honor?" "I'm not a business transaction, Ethan," she snapped. Something dangerous flashed across his face. "Everyone out there thinks you're about to become part of the Gray family. I'm simply making that true." The room was thick with tension and unspoken questions. Emma's mind raced through the implications. 200 guests waiting, an empty apartment she'd moved out of expecting to return to Lucas's home, the pity she'd face explaining everything. "It would be temporary," Ethan continued, his voice lowering. "A marriage on paper. You'd want for nothing financially. When enough time has passed, we divorce quietly." "You barely know me," Emma challenged, recalling they had barely exchanged 10 words at family dinners. Something shifted in Ethan's expression, tension in his shoulders, a subtle change in breathing. This wasn't just about family honor for him. "I need a moment," Emma said suddenly, nodding at Ava. "Please," Ethan urged quietly. Ava reluctantly left the room, shooting a suspicious glance at him before closing the door. Alone with Ethan, Emma felt a strange electricity in the air. She had always noticed Ethan's presence, a midnight thunderstorm compared to Lucas's golden sunshine. She'd caught him watching her sometimes, inscrutable and intense. "Why are you really doing this?" she asked, stepping closer, determined to see past his mask. Ethan's eyes darkened. "Does it matter? I'm offering you a way out of public humiliation, a comfortable life, freedom to pursue your art without worry." "It matters to me," she insisted. For a brief moment, vulnerability flickered in his eyes. "Maybe I'm tired of watching my brother throw away things of value." The words sent an unexpected warmth through her chest. Before she could analyze it, he continued, voice hardening. "This is a one-time offer. The guests are getting restless. Your choice." Emma studied the man before her, the tall, powerful stranger she was considering marrying. "If I agree," she said slowly, There are conditions. A slight smile touched his lips. I expected nothing less. This is temporary, 1 year, then a quiet divorce with a generous settlement. We'd lived together for appearances. She hesitated, suddenly aware of the intimacy they were discussing. Separate bedrooms, he finished, unless you decide otherwise. The implication sent heat rushing to her cheeks. There was something about his voice, those intense eyes, that made her acutely aware of him as a man. She pushed the thought away. And I maintain my independence, my career, my friends. He extended his hand. Do we have an agreement, Emma Reynolds? She stared at his hand, knowing this decision would change everything. That morning, she had been certain of her future with Lucas. Now she was about to bind herself to his enigmatic older brother, a man whose true motives remained a mystery. Just as she reached to take his hand, a knock came at the door, followed by the wedding planner's anxious voice. Miss Reynolds, the guests are getting concerned. Is everything all right? Time had run out. Emma took a deep breath and placed her hand in Ethan's. His fingers closed warmly around hers, sending a current of electricity up her arm that made her breath catch. Yes, she said. The word answered both the wedding planner and Ethan's daring proposition. Outside, the string quartet began playing the wedding march. In minutes, Emma Reynolds would walk down the aisle, not to Lucas, but toward a future rewritten by fate and a billionaire's unexpected promise. The wedding day. Switch. Emma's heart pounded in her chest like a frantic drum as she stepped out of the bridal suite and into the bright morning sun. The garden surrounding the small church was buzzing with excitement. Guests adorned in their finest attire, chatting beneath fluttering white ribbons and blooming flowers. The scent of fresh roses mingled with the warm spring air, a sensory reminder of all that was supposed to be perfect today. Yet Emma's steps felt heavy, weighted by the knowledge that this ceremony was not what she had imagined. The groom she was to marry was gone, replaced by a stranger who suddenly demanded she trust him. Ethan Gray's hand in hers was steady, strong an anchor, amid the chaos swirling inside her. But she could feel the curious, even suspicious, eyes of the guests searching for answers, for the groom who had vanished without explanation. As they moved toward the altar, whispers rose like a tide, rustling through the crowd. Where is Lucas? Did you hear he fled? Is this some kind of joke? The tension was palpable, but Emma forced herself to breathe deeply, to hold her chin high. After all, she was an artist, used to turning chaos into beauty. She would paint a new beginning with this unexpected canvas. The aisle stretched out before her, white petals scattered along the cobblestones. The string quartet played the familiar wedding march, its melody both haunting and hopeful. She caught Ethan's gaze, those piercing blue eyes locked onto hers, steady and unwavering. In that moment, something flickered deep within her, a fragile hope that maybe this was fate's strange way of giving her a second chance. The minister's voice rang clear through the air. Who gives this woman to be married? Emma's breath caught. There was no uncle to give her away, no reassuring hand to steady her. Instead, she answered, I give myself. A hush fell over the crowd. The words were bold, a declaration of independence amid uncertainty. Ethan's eyes softened, a rare flash of admiration breaking through his usual reserve. As the ceremony began, Emma's mind raced. The vows felt like words on a script she hadn't rehearsed, hollow but sincere as they passed from her lips and Ethan's. When he slipped a platinum band adorned with a black diamond onto her finger, their ring, a stark contrast to the delicate engagement ring Lucas had chosen, she felt a surprising warmth spread through her veins. The moment the minister said, "You may kiss the bride," Emma froze. They hadn't discussed this part. Ethan stepped closer, his sandalwood scent enveloping her, his hand gentle on her cheek. "May I?" he whispered, the question filled with an unexpected tenderness. Emma nodded, her pulse quickening as their lips met in a kiss meant to be brief, but which deepened, sparking a fire neither anticipated. Ethan's arms wrapped around her waist, pulling her close, while her hands found their way to his chest, feeling the rapid beat beneath his shirt. The crowd erupted into applause, but Emma's cheeks burned, her eyes locked on Ethan's, now darkened with desire and something far more dangerous possibility. "Breathe," he murmured softly, guiding her down the aisle with a possessive hand at the small of her back. The reception that followed was a whirlwind. Ethan never left her side, his presence commanding yet protective as they greeted curious guests. Each introduction came with a carefully crafted story. Lucas had been called away on urgent business, and Ethan had stepped in to spare Emma embarrassment. Emma caught his sly smile, whispered, "You're quite the actor." "Who says I'm acting?" he retorted with a gleam in his eye. Her mind kept circling back to the contrast between the brothers. Lucas with his easy charm and fleeting attentiveness, and Ethan, a storm wrapped in control, commanding respect without even trying. The arrival of Richard Gray, their father, cast a shadow over the evening. His gaze was cold, sharp as a blade, as he took in Emma. "Mrs. Reynolds, or should I say Mrs. Gray," he said with clipped politeness. "You've made quite the upgrade today." Ethan stiffened beside her. Emma met Richard's appraisal coolly. "It's still Emma," she said, "and I believe I'm the one who's fortunate." Richard's thin smile didn't reach his eyes. "I expect a full explanation tomorrow at the office." Ethan's voice was firm. "We'll be on our honeymoon. Business can wait." Emma's heart sank at the thought of the looming corporate battles already invading her wedding night. The idea of a honeymoon was suddenly less romantic and more a performance, another scene in a play she hadn't auditioned for. As the night wore on, Ethan whisked her away, not to the lavish suite Lucas had booked, but to his penthouse overlooking Central Park. The city lights glittered below like scattered stars, their cold beauty contrasting with the warmth in Ethan's eyes. "Home, sweet home," Ethan said dryly, opening the door to reveal a space that was all sharp lines and masculine elegance, yet softened by the presence of art-bold, daring works that Emma's trained eye recognized as emerging talent. He led her down a hallway to a guest suite, her luggage already waiting on the bed. The sight was a sharp reminder of how much her life had shifted in less than 24 hours. "We should discuss terms," Ethan said, standing in the doorway, reluctant to enter her space. Emma's exhaustion nearly overwhelmed her. "Now? It's been a long day." "Tomorrow, then," he relented. "Contracts are prepared." "Contracts?" she echoed, incredulous. "How romantic." A dangerous smile curved his lips. "We agreed at the altar that romance might be problematic." Emma felt a flush creep up her neck. That kiss, their kiss, had felt anything but problematic. "It was for show?" she challenged. "Interesting how your body contradicted that theory," he replied, his voice low and teasing. "I'm not him," she said firmly. "I won't be a replacement for Lucas's discarded toy." Ethan closed the distance between them in a heartbeat, stopping just inches from her face. The scent of cedar and sandalwood was intoxicating. "Let me be clear," he said, voice a rumble she felt deep in her bones. "I have never seen you as Lucas's anything. You were always too extraordinary for him." The honesty struck Emma like a thunderclap. She swallowed hard, meeting his intense gaze. For a moment, the walls she'd built crumbled under the weight of his words. Before she could say more, Ethan stepped back, reclaiming the control that defined him. "Get some rest. Tomorrow we discuss our arrangement in detail." He turned to leave, but Emma called after him. "Why did you really do this, Ethan?" "The truth." He paused at the door, shoulders tense. "Perhaps I've been watching you longer than you realize." Then the door closed, leaving Emma alone with the cryptic statement, her heart pounding in a silence filled with questions. She shed her wedding gown, hanging it carefully, the dress meant for a different groom, a different future. As she slipped into bed, the room quiet and unfamiliar, sleep eluded her. Her mind raced with memories, possibilities, and the electric charge of the day's events. Hours later, driven by a restless thirst, Emma wandered barefoot through the penthouse's dim hallways, guided by subtle lighting along the baseboards. The kitchen was a gleaming island of marble and stainless steel. She reached for a glass when a voice emerged from the shadows. "Couldn't sleep either?" She spun around to find Ethan seated at the kitchen island, illuminated by the city's glow filtering through the floor-to-ceiling windows. Black pajama pants, bare chest, his sculpted physique catching the moonlight. Emma's mouth went dry. "I was thirsty," she said, clutching the glass like a lifeline. He rose, took the glass, and filled it with water, their fingers brushing in a spark that sent warmth racing up her arm. "Hey," he said quietly. "Must have been difficult for you." Emma nodded, touched by the softness in his voice. "You saved me from humiliation. That counts for something." He looked away, a shadow crossing his face. "Maybe I only served my own interests." "And those are?" He stepped closer, heat radiating off him. "I think you know, Emma." Her heart hammered as his fingers brushed a loose curl behind her ear in a gesture so tender it stole her breath. "This arrangement," he murmured, "has rules, boundaries. But don't mistake that for indifference." Emma hesitated, words caught in her throat. He stepped back, breaking the spell. "Go back to bed. Tomorrow will bring enough complications without adding sleep deprivation." She returned to her room, sleep still beyond reach, the memory of his touch and vulnerability echoing in the quiet dark. Outside, the city was silent, but inside the penthouse, a storm was brewing, one not of thunder and rain, but of emotions tangled and unresolved. First morning, new rules. Morning arrived with a soft glow filtering through the tall windows of Ethan's penthouse. Emma awoke slowly, disoriented for a moment by the unfamiliar surroundings, the sleek furniture, the polished surfaces, the subtle scent of cedar and leather that seemed to permeate every corner. The weight on her finger was a constant reminder. She was married, but not in the way she had ever expected. Ethan lay beside her, still asleep, his arm draped possessively across her waist. His steady breathing was a contrast to the turmoil still swirling inside her. She studied his face, the usual intensity softened by sleep, and something tender stirred deep within her chest. Rising quietly, she slipped out of bed and moved toward the window. The city was waking below, the streets beginning to fill with the hum of traffic and early risers. Emma twisted the black diamond ring on her finger, a symbol of an arrangement she hadn't chosen, but was now bound to navigate. A gentle knock interrupted the stillness. "Come in," she called, pulling the thin nightgown tighter around her. The door opened to reveal Mrs. Garcia, Ethan's housekeeper, impeccably dressed and efficient. "Good morning, Mrs. Gray. Breakfast will be served on the terrace in 30 minutes, she said with a polite smile. "Your clothes have been unpacked in the dressing room. Mr. Gray also arranged for additional items. Will you require assistance?" Emma nodded, still adjusting to being Mrs. Gray. The formality felt surreal, but beneath it was the reality of her new life. Later, as she stepped into the dressing room, Emma's breath caught. Rows of designer dresses, shoes, and accessories in every style and color imaginable were meticulously arranged. The price tags shimmered like tiny confessions of Ethan's wealth and intentions. A flash of indignation warmed her cheeks. Did he assume her own clothes weren't good enough? She bypassed the lavish wardrobe, opting instead for a simple yellow sundress she'd packed for the honeymoon with Lucas, the one that never happened. That dress would be her armor today. On the terrace, Ethan awaited, seated at a glass table laden with breakfast delicacies. His eyes took her in with that familiar intensity, causing a blush to rise in her cheeks. "Good morning," he greeted, his voice low and warm. "Did you sleep well?" "As well as can be expected," she replied, settling into the chair he pulled out for her. A hint of a smile played at his lips. "Hardly strangers, then." Emma raised an eyebrow. "Knowing someone isn't the same as knowing them. We've barely exchanged 10 words." Ethan's eyes flickered with a challenge. "Then this arrangement presents an opportunity." A server brought French toast with fresh berries, and Emma helped herself, the sweet aroma mingling with the crisp morning air. "Do you always have staff serve breakfast?" she asked, amusement creeping into her voice. "Only when I want to impress my new wife," he replied, eyes locked on hers. Emma noticed the subtle way he studied her, the way his gaze lingered just long enough to unsettle her. She sipped her coffee, questioning this strange new dynamic. "I noticed the wardrobe in my room," she said carefully. "That wasn't necessary." "You're a Gray now, at least for the year," he said smoothly. "Certain appearances must be maintained." She smirked. "Social calendar, huh? I thought this was just a paper marriage." His expression was unreadable, but she caught the slight tightening of his jaw. "We need occasional public appearances to maintain the illusion. People would ask questions otherwise. Emma set down her fork, the edge in her voice unmistakable. You thought of everything, haven't you? I try to. The conversation shifted, becoming more serious. Ethan leaned forward, voice dropping to a near whisper. Emma, I know this isn't how you planned your life. For the next year, we're bound together. We can fight or find a way to coexist. A warmth spread through her that had nothing to do with the morning sun. Perhaps even more than that, he added, a subtle suggestion in his tone. Emma looked away, unsettled by the heat rising to her cheeks. I should probably learn more about you if we're going to convince people this marriage is real. What would you like to know? He asked, leaning back with a relaxed confidence. Everything. Start with why you need a wife for appearances when half the socialites in Manhattan would kill for the position. A shadow crossed his face. My father is retiring. The board is voting on my succession next month. He believes a settled family man inspires confidence. So you're a prop in a corporate power play, she concluded, trying to mask her disappointment. You're much more than that. Emma met his gaze steadily. Then what am I to you? His expression flickered, vulnerable for a moment. More complicated than you realize. Before she could press for details, his phone buzzed sharply. Ethan's jaw tightened. Business demands attention. I have a proposition for you. Proposition? I have a private art collection not displayed publicly. I'd value your professional opinion. Interest sparked despite her determination to stay aloof. Emerging artists, mostly without traditional connections. It's a passion project, not investment. Emma nodded slowly. I'd like to see it. Good, we'll go this afternoon. The studio on the lower level is fully equipped if you want to work while I'm away. Access is coded to your fingerprint. Before she could respond, he was gone, leaving her with a sense of curiosity and caution swirling in her chest. The private elevator opened onto a vast studio flooded with natural light. Walls lined with empty canvases, shelves stocked with every artistic supply imaginable. A vintage leather couch and gourmet coffee station completed the space. When did you do this? Emma whispered, touching a set of brushes. 2 weeks ago, Ethan replied, stepping off the elevator, before Lucas left you at the altar, before our arrangement. She stared at him, struggling to reconcile the man who had prepared a studio for her before their lives became intertwined. I've seen your work, Emma, your pieces from the Thompson Gallery. You have extraordinary talent. He smiled softly. I pay attention to things that interest me. The intensity in his eyes made her pulse quicken. And I interest you more than you know. Remember the crocodile sunscreen? Well, this was no less unexpected, a sudden gift of trust amid the chaos. Storms within and without. The storm arrived with little warning, the sky darkening rapidly as rain began to lash against the towering windows of the studio. Emma and Ethan stood close, the tension in the air thicker than the humid summer rain outside. Lightning flashed, illuminating Ethan's sharp features in stark relief, shadows dancing across his face like secrets waiting to be told. New York summer storms, Ethan murmured, voice low and steady. They come without warning. Emma shivered, not just from the chill the storm brought, but from the closeness between them. Her hands trembled slightly as she reached out to steady herself against the wall. The storm outside mirrored the tumult growing inside her, a storm of confusion, desire, and unanswered questions. Suddenly, the lights flickered and went out, plunging the studio into darkness. Emergency blue lights blinked on, casting an eerie glow. Ethan's calm voice broke the silence. Backup generator. The main system will restart soon. The dim light revealed the sharp intensity in his eyes as they locked onto hers. The electric tension crackled between them as strongly as the storm outside. You haven't asked about Lucas, he said suddenly, breaking the charged silence. Emma swallowed hard, her pulse quickening. The mention of her former fiancé, the man who had abandoned her at the altar, should have hurt, but instead, she realized she barely thought of him all day. No, I haven't. Why not? Ethan stepped closer, so close she could feel the warmth radiating from his body through the thin fabric of her dress. Because you're learning about the present, not the past. Her heart pounded as she searched his unreadable face. And what do you understand about the present, Emma? There's more to you than I ever realized, she whispered. His gaze dropped to her lips, then back to her eyes. Much more complicated. Lightning cracked again, followed immediately by thunder so loud it made Emma gasp and instinctively step forward. Her hands landed on Ethan's chest, feeling the solid warmth beneath his shirt. But instead of stepping back, his arms wrapped around her, steadying her trembling body. For a suspended moment, time stood still. Her hands traced the broad planes of his chest, feeling the rapid beat of his heart beneath her palm. The scent of sandalwood and cedar enveloped her, intoxicating and comforting all at once. Emma, he murmured, his voice thick with something she couldn't name, longing, fear, hope. She looked up, meeting eyes that were darker, more vulnerable than ever before. The air between them charged with a raw, electric energy. She should step away. Remember this was temporary. Remember she'd been moments from marrying Lucas yesterday. But instead, she rose on tiptoe, drawn like a magnet to him. Their lips were about to meet when the lights flickered back to life, breaking the spell. Emma stepped back, cheeks burning with embarrassment at how easily she'd been swept away. I should, she began, eyes avoiding his. Stay, Ethan interrupted, his voice a raw plea. That simple word, spoken so quietly yet with such force, made her look up. In his face, she saw desire tangled with vulnerability, hope tinged with fear of rejection. Why did you really marry me, Ethan? She whispered. The truth, this time. His fingers brushed a loose curl from her face, tucking it behind her ear with tender care. Because from the moment I saw your work at that Brooklyn gallery 3 years ago, I knew there was something extraordinary about you. And when I finally met you... What? She pressed, her voice trembling. He held her gaze, all pretense falling away. I recognized something in you, something in me, something no one else has ever seen. The honesty cracked open something deep inside her. Without thinking, she stepped closer. This time, when their lips met, there was no interruption. The kiss started gently, a question asked and answered, then deepened into something fierce, consuming. His hands framed her face, thumb caressing her cheekbones with reverence, even as his mouth claimed hers with demanding passion. Emma melted into him, fingers tangling in his dark hair. When they finally broke apart, breathless, the world felt shifted on its axis. I don't want to rush you, he murmured against her skin. We have time. And what if I don't want to wait? Her voice was soft but certain. What if I want to know now what it feels like to be truly desired by you? His eyes flared with heat. Be certain, Emma, because if you invite me to your bed, there's no going back. No pretending this is just an arrangement anymore. She rose, extending her hand. When he took it, the simple touch was a vow stronger than any contract. As the storm raged outside, they discovered each other with a passionate intensity that neither expected. Ethan worshipped her body with a tenderness and thoroughness that left her gasping, patient where Lucas had been rushed, attentive where Lucas had been selfish. Look at me, he whispered softly as she neared the edge. I want to see you. Their eyes locked as waves of pleasure overtook her, followed closely by him. He whispered her name like a prayer. Afterward, he held her close, heartbeat slowing beneath her cheek. Outside, the storm continued to batter the city, but inside their sanctuary, a different storm had passed, one that left clarity and a fragile hope in its wake. This changes everything, Ethan murmured against her hair. Emma smiled, feeling for the first time since the altar a certainty, not regret, not doubt, but something new and terrifying. Possibility. Remember the crocodile sunscreen? Sometimes, just when you think you're prepared, life surprises you with a storm that makes you forget the forecast, and it turns out that's exactly what you needed. A weekend escape. Morning light spilled gently through the curtains of Ethan's penthouse, painting the room with soft gold. Emma blinked awake, momentarily disoriented by the unfamiliar surroundings. The weight of Ethan's arm, draped possessively across her waist, and the warmth of his breath against her neck reminded her she wasn't alone. The memories of last night's storm, both outside and inside, flooded back. his touch, his hunger, the way he had whispered her name like a prayer. Each sensation was vivid, impossible to dismiss. As Ethan stirred beside her, his features softened in sleep, the intense man she'd seen moments ago replaced by someone tender, vulnerable. When his eyes opened and focused on her with startling clarity, her heart skipped. "You're still here?" he murmured, voice rough with sleep. "Did you think I wouldn't be?" she teased lightly, tracing the strong line of his jaw. His hand slid up her bare back, pulling her closer. "One I've had many times before," he confessed. The admission warmed her chest. "How long?" "Since the first moment I saw you," he answered, his gaze raw with honesty. "You were explaining color theory to a collector who couldn't appreciate a masterpiece if it hit him in the face. Your passion, your intelligence. You're magnificent, but you never approached me." Emma smiled softly, heart fluttering. "Not until Lucas." "I was about to," Ethan interrupted, a shadow crossing his face. "That night at the gallery, I finally had the courage to ask you to dinner. Then Lucas showed up and introduced you as his date." She finished his thought, understanding at last why Ethan had pulled away that night. "My brother always did have impeccable timing," Ethan said dryly. Emma's palm rested on his chest, feeling the steady beat beneath her fingers. "And now I have you in my arms," he whispered, "even if just for this year." The reminder of their agreement brought a flicker of hesitation, but the kiss that followed swept away every doubt. Their morning together was a contrast to the previous night, slower, deeper, deliberate. When they finally lay spent in each other's arms, the sun fully risen, bathing the room in radiant light, Ethan murmured against her hair, "I could get used to mornings like this." "Same," she whispered, feeling shy despite their intimacy. "Though I never pegged you as a late riser," he chuckled, the sound vibrating against her cheek. Emma laughed, warmth spreading through her. "I'm usually up before dawn, but I've never had such compelling reasons to stay in bed." His eyes met hers, a profound connection passing between them. "Maybe you just haven't found someone who matches your intensity." "Maybe I haven't," she said softly. The day unfolded in perfect harmony. They swam in the lake's crystal-clear water, hiked winding forest trails, and Ethan taught her to drive his cherished vintage Mustang along curving country roads. Without words, they agreed to live in the moment, leaving behind the weight of New York, of Lucas, of their complicated arrangement. As the sun set in a blaze of pink and orange, they sat on the dock, feet dangling above the cool water. Ethan's arm rested around her shoulders, fingers tracing gentle patterns on her skin. "Tell me something real," Emma said suddenly, "something no one else knows." He was silent for so long, she thought he might not answer. Then, his voice low and contemplative, "I almost walked away from the family business once." "Why?" "After college, I wanted to open a gallery for unknown artists, people with talent, but no connections." Emma's eyes widened. "What stopped you?" His expression darkened. "My father had a heart attack. Lucas was too young, too reckless to take over. The responsibility fell to me." "Do you regret it?" "Sometimes," he admitted. "But it gave me power to help artists in other ways, funding scholarships, anonymous donations." Emma tilted her head, studying him. "You're better than most people think, Ethan Carter." He gave a self-deprecating smile. "Don't be too sure. I've done things I'm not proud of." "We all have. It's what makes us human," she said softly. The thunder rumbled again. "Storm coming," he noted with a boyish grin. With a shared laugh, they raced through the sudden downpour, drenched and laughing like kids. On the porch, Emma couldn't stop giggling at the sight of soaked, disheveled Ethan. "You look like you fell in the lake," she teased. He shook his head, spraying water at her, igniting a playful water fight that ended with him catching her wrist and locking eyes with a heat that made her knees weak. "We should get inside before you catch cold," he said, voice rough. After warm showers and separate bathrooms, Emma found him by the fire, dressed casually, looking more approachable than ever. "I'm enjoying seeing the real you," she said, settling before the flames. "What side is that?" "The one beneath the billionaire facade." Just you." He joined her, the firelight casting golden highlights over his face. As the storm raged outside, the walls between them crumbled. "My mother brought me here as a child," he shared. "Before the divorce, it was the only place my father's expectations couldn't reach." "After she left?" He nodded, pain flickering in his eyes. "My father sold it. The day I made my first million, I bought it back." Emma felt touched, the depth of his vulnerability drawing her closer. That night, their shared stories and discoveries wove a new tapestry between them, stitched with laughter, wine, and unspoken hopes. "I should have known you were different from what Lucas described," Emma said softly. "That night at the gallery, you were the only one who asked about the emotion behind my work, not the investment." Ethan's eyes held hers. "I remembered you immediately. You were passionate, brilliant." Lightning flashed, plunging the room into darkness, then back to firelight. Another storm, this one within their hearts. Emma whispered, "I'm enjoying getting to know the real you." "Be careful what you wish for," Ethan warned. "The real me might not be what you expect." "Maybe that's exactly what makes you interesting." A dangerous glint flashed in his eyes. "What if that depth contains things that would disturb you?" "Like what?" "Like the fact I've wanted you since I first saw you. Like watching you with Lucas was its own special kind of hell. Like when he left you, part of me was glad." Emma's heart pounded with shock and exhilaration. "Why didn't you say anything?" "What would I have said? That my brother had claimed something I wanted before I could act? That I noticed everything about you?" "Why the contract then? The separate bedrooms?" "I didn't want to be your consolation prize. I wanted you to see me, really see me." Emma reached up, fingers tracing the rough stubble on his jaw. "I'm seeing you now." His voice was a breath. "I'm not thinking about Lucas, not for days." With a groan torn from deep inside, Ethan pulled her close. His kiss was raw, real, devastating. "We don't need to define this," he murmured. "We have time." "What if I don't want to wait? What if I want to know what it feels like to be truly desired?" His eyes flared. "Be certain. There's no going back." Emma smiled, extending her hand. When he took it, their touch was a vow, a promise of something dangerously real. Outside, the storm raged. Inside, a new storm of passion and hope had just begun. Remember the crocodile sunscreen. Life's storms can catch you unprepared, but sometimes the best moments come soaked and unexpected. Shadows return. The idyllic weekend at the lake house came to an all too brief end. As the helicopter lifted off, soaring away from the shimmering lake and dense forest, Emma felt a pang of reluctance. The glassy skyscrapers of Manhattan rose ahead, a stark reminder that their bubble of tranquility was about to burst. Ethan's hand found hers, their fingers intertwining with a quiet urgency, both aware that the perfect escape was ending, and the realities they'd temporarily escaped awaited them. "We have meetings this afternoon," Ethan said reluctantly, as the helicopter touched down on his building's private helipad. The cool efficiency of the penthouse greeted them, everything immaculate, polished, but somehow colder than the warmth they'd left behind. "I understand," Emma replied, disappointment tugging at her. "I have work in the studio anyway." His eyes softened as he helped her out of the helicopter. "Dinner tonight, just us." The promise felt like an anchor, but also a fragile thread stretched thin by the weight of their secrets. Mrs. Garcia, the housekeeper, greeted them with the usual formal nod. "There are several messages, Mr. Carter," she said, handing Ethan a stack of papers. Then she gestured toward a large bouquet of exotic orchids by the door. "Delivery for Mrs. Carter." Emma approached the flowers, their intoxicating fragrance filling the air. Nestled among them was a small envelope. She opened it hesitantly, reading the note. "Emma, please forgive my inexcusable behavior. We need to talk. I can explain everything. Lucas." The name hit her like a sudden chill. In the sanctuary she and Ethan had created, the past intruded once more. Ethan's expression darkened as he read over her shoulder. "Lucas," he said flatly, What does he want? Emma's voice trembled slightly. He wants to explain. The relaxed happiness of the weekend dissolved instantly. Ethan's facade returned, cold and controlled, as he retreated to his office to prepare for meetings. "We'll talk at dinner," he promised, though his tone left no room for argument. Left alone, Emma's frustration rose. How had everything shifted so fast? One moment, they were on the brink of something real. The next, shadows from their past threatened to unravel it all. She stormed to the kitchen, dumping the orchids in the trash, unable to stomach their reminder of disruption. Mrs. Garcia observed quietly but said nothing. Seeking refuge, Emma escaped to the studio, her sanctuary. There, surrounded by canvases and paint, she poured her turbulent emotions into bold strokes of crimson and black, her brush dancing like lightning across the blank surface. Hours passed unnoticed. Lost in the chaos of color and feeling, she didn't hear the elevator ding until it chimed again. Expecting Ethan, she turned only to freeze. Lucas stood there, disheveled, the weight of guilt and desperation in his eyes. "How did you get in?" she asked coldly. "I still had the security code," he admitted. "Please, just 5 minutes. I need to explain." 5 minutes was a generous offer. As he spoke, the pieces fell into place. That morning at the wedding, he'd received damning proof that someone close to her was manipulating events. Emma's disbelief turned to shock as he revealed the truth. Ethan. Her breath caught. Ethan had orchestrated the entire ordeal. "I thought you should know," Lucas said quietly. "I wanted to protect you." The accusation hung heavy. Emma felt the world tilt. Lucas showed her emails, financial records, proof of Ethan's obsession, his shadowy surveillance, the private investigator hired to follow her every step. "Why?" she whispered. Lucas shook his head. "Because he wanted you. Because he feared losing you." Emma's mind reeled, her heart a battleground of betrayal, confusion, and something darker. Her friend Lily arrived unexpectedly, fierce in her protectiveness. "What the hell is he doing here?" she demanded. Lucas left quickly, but his words lingered. "He's been obsessed with me for years," Emma said, voice barely audible. "Manipulated everything," Lily scoffed. "Lucas is just jealous." "Is it jealousy?" Emma wondered aloud. "Or something more twisted?" Later that night, Ethan returned. The tension between them was palpable as she confronted him. Lucas's revelations forced Ethan into honesty. Admissions of admiration that crossed boundaries, mistakes born of fear and love, twisted in secrecy. Emma's pain deepened. The foundation of their fragile bond cracked. "I need space," she said firmly. He nodded, hurt flashing across his features. "I'll give you time." Alone in the penthouse, Emma packed silently, tears slipping unbidden. The promise of love felt distant, blurred by doubt. She retreated to her grandmother's Brooklyn brownstone, the only place that felt truly hers. There, among dust-covered furniture and the ghosts of her past, Emma sought clarity. Her fingers brushed her grandmother's piano keys, the worn bookshelves, the kitchen table where dreams had first taken shape. "I need your wisdom, Grandma," she whispered. Days passed in solitude, broken only by bursts of fierce, honest painting. Her art became a mirror for her soul's turmoil, each brushstroke a question unanswered. Until a knock shattered the stillness. She opened the door to find Richard Carter, Ethan's father, impeccably dressed, yet out of place among the humble surroundings. "May I come in?" he asked. Confusion warred with caution as Emma stepped aside. Richard's visit was a calculated move, his presence a reminder of the power struggles that shadowed Ethan's life. He revealed truths that challenged Emma's perceptions, Lucas's betrayals, Ethan's flaws, and the painful complexity of the Carter family legacy. The weight of his revelations forced Emma to reconsider everything. Richard presented Ethan's private journal, a raw glimpse into the man behind the mask, a man haunted by love and loss, fear and hope. Emma read, tears blurring the ink. She saw Ethan's admiration, his struggles, and his unwavering belief in her talent and worth. The journey from obsession to love was fraught, but undeniable. Richard's words struck a chord. Ethan had risked everything for her. As the pieces fell into place, Emma felt the fragile threads of trust begin to weave anew. Yet shadows still lingered. Lucas's motives, Ethan's mistakes, and the unforgiving glare of the public eye threatened their fragile peace. The storm was far from over. Remember the crocodile sunscreen? Sometimes you think you're prepared for the sun, only to realize the real challenge is weathering the unexpected storms, especially when they come dressed in suits and family secrets. Painful truths. The heavy doors of the Carter family penthouse swung open, revealing a room steeped in old money and cold grandeur. Oil portraits of stern-faced ancestors watched over the long mahogany table, where Emma found herself seated across from Richard Carter, the formidable patriarch. His gaze was sharp, calculating. "Your hasty marriage continues to puzzle me," he began, swirling his aged scotch with a slow deliberateness, "especially considering Liam's recent return." Emma's breath caught. "Liam has returned?" she asked, exchanging a wary glance with Ethan, who sat rigid beside her, his jaw clenched tight. Richard nodded solemnly. "Yesterday, he claims there was a misunderstanding about the wedding, that he never intended to abandon you." Emma's heart hammered painfully. "A misunderstanding?" she repeated, disbelief lacing her voice. "He left me at the altar without a word." Richard's attention shifted to Ethan, the weight of the question hanging in the air. "What happens now?" Ethan's voice was steady but possessive as he reached for Emma's hand beneath the table. "Nothing happens. Emma is my wife." The possessive declaration should have brought Emma comfort, but instead, a flicker of doubt took root in her heart. Was she truly his wife, or merely a piece on a corporate chessboard? Richard's steely eyes gleamed as he continued. "The board meeting is next Friday. I've decided to announce my retirement. Ethan, I expect you to be ready to take control of Carter Holdings." Emma felt like a pawn in a game she barely understood, her presence valued for the title she now bore, rather than the woman she was. The dinner passed in a blur of business talk, carefully excluding Emma. The feeling of isolation was suffocating, but the worst was yet to come. Once back in the penthouse, tension crackled between Emma and Ethan like a storm about to break. "You knew Liam was back," Emma said the moment they were alone, her voice sharp with hurt. "Why didn't you tell me?" Ethan loosened his tie, exhaustion etched in the lines of his face. "I only found out this afternoon. I was going to tell you after dinner, like you were going to tell me about Sophia." Emma's expression darkened. "Sophia? Your past?" Ethan's jaw tightened. "She's irrelevant." "Not to me," Emma shot back, the words cutting deeper than she intended. "And certainly not to your father, who mentioned her 3 times tonight." She saw the flash of pain and frustration in Ethan's eyes. "My father has his own agenda," he admitted, "one I don't always agree with." Emma crossed the room and took his hands. "We're supposed to be partners, Ethan, but tonight I felt like an outsider in my own marriage." His fingers squeezed hers, a silent apology. But before either could speak again, Ethan's phone rang sharply. He glanced at the screen, tension mounting. "I have to take this. It's my father." Without waiting for a response, he stepped away. Emma sank into the plush sofa, the sting of the evening settling deep. Doubt gnawed at her. Was she truly seen, truly loved, or just another pawn in a game of power and control? Seeking solace, she retreated to the sanctuary of her studio. The familiar scent of paint and canvas wrapped around her like a balm. But even here, peace was elusive. Suddenly, the elevator chimed. Expecting Ethan, Emma turned, but instead saw Liam, standing in the doorway, disheveled and desperate. "Liam," she said coolly, fighting the tumult inside. "How did you get in?" "I still had the code," he admitted. "Please, just 5 minutes. I need to explain." Emma nodded, voice steady but firm. 5 minutes. Then you leave." As Liam unfolded his story, Emma's world tilted again. He revealed that Ethan had orchestrated the chaos at the wedding day, hired investigators, manipulated circumstances, all in a twisted bid for control. Emma's breath caught, shock and betrayal warring inside. Liam's voice dropped. "I wanted to protect you from Ethan's obsession." Emma's eyes narrowed. So, all those months, all the whispers behind my back, all the surveillance, it was protection? Liam shrugged helplessly. I thought so. The room felt colder, the walls closing in. Just then, Lily burst in, fierce as ever. What the hell is he doing here? She demanded, moving to Emma's side like a shield. Liam left quickly, but his words lingered like poison. Emma turned to Lily, voice trembling. He says Ethan has been obsessed with me for years, manipulated everything. Lily scoffed. Jealousy. Classic Liam. But Emma wasn't so sure. Is it jealousy or something darker? Later, Ethan returned. The confrontation was inevitable. Emma laid the accusations bare: private investigators, secret surveillance, hidden obsession. Ethan's defenses crumbled as he admitted to following her career from afar, driven by admiration and fear. I wanted to protect you, he said quietly, even if I went about it all wrong. Emma's heart ached with conflicting emotions: love, betrayal, confusion. I need space, she said finally. He nodded, pain flashing in his eyes. I'll give you time. That night, Emma packed silently in the penthouse, tears tracing cold paths down her cheeks. The weight of their tangled past threatened to crush the fragile hope she'd clung to. She escaped to her grandmother's Brooklyn brownstone, the only place that felt safe, real. The house was cloaked in silence, dust motes floating like tiny ghosts in the sunlight. Emma wandered through rooms steeped in memory, the worn piano keys, the faded bookshelves, the kitchen table where she'd learned to dream. I need your wisdom, Grandma, she whispered, fingers tracing the familiar shapes. Days passed in solitude, broken only by bursts of furious painting. Each brushstroke was a catharsis, an honest reflection of the storm within. Then, a knock shattered the quiet. She opened the door to find Richard Carter, an imposing figure out of place in the humble home. May I come in? He asked. Emma hesitated but stepped aside. Richard surveyed the modest space with thinly veiled disdain. We must talk, he said gravely. The conversation was a revelation. Richard laid bare family secrets, exposing Liam's infidelities and manipulations. You're not a pawn, he said, but you're caught in a battle between two very flawed brothers. He produced Ethan's private journal, a window into the man she thought she knew. Emma read his words raw, honest, vulnerable. Ethan's love was real, albeit flawed. His obsession had been misguided protection, his passion buried beneath layers of control. Richard urged her to see beyond the surface. The man you married is more than a businessman. He's a man who's loved you from afar. Emma's doubts wrestled with hope. The storm of secrets was far from over, but perhaps, amid the chaos, a fragile foundation could be rebuilt. Remember the crocodile sunscreen. Just when you think you're shielded from the harshest rays, life has a way of throwing a surprise tropical storm complete with lightning and awkward family dinners. Shattered pieces. The familiar click of the old Brooklyn brownstone's lock echoed softly as Emma stepped inside. Dusty air mixed with the faint scent of aged wood and forgotten memories. This place, her grandmother's house, had always been her refuge, a sanctuary where time slowed and the world's harsh edges softened. Now, it was the last stronghold against the emotional tempest that had engulfed her. The rooms lay silent, cloaked in layers of dust and neglect. Furniture covered in sheets looked like ghostly reminders of happier days. Emma ran her fingers over the cracked piano keys, feeling a surge of nostalgia and sorrow. This was where she had first found her voice, where paint and music blended into dreams bigger than this small neighborhood. I need your wisdom, Grandma, she whispered, her voice barely carrying in the emptiness. I don't know what to believe anymore. She moved through the house methodically, opening windows to let in fresh air, shaking off the stagnation not only in the room, but in her heart. For 3 days, Emma immersed herself in solitude, cutting off calls from Lily, gallery owners, even Liam. She painted furiously in the cramped back room that had once been her first studio. Her brush wielded with fierce energy, she channeled confusion, betrayal, and heartbreak into each bold stroke. Dark colors swirled, jagged lines cutting across canvases like lightning bolts, unfiltered and raw. On the 4th morning, A knock shattered the silence. Wrapped in a robe, she approached cautiously, peering through the peephole. To her surprise, it was Richard Carter, the very embodiment of the world she'd just fled. "May I come in, Emma?" His voice was calm, but carried an edge of urgency. She hesitated, then stepped back, allowing him entry. The incongruity of the polished businessman in her humble home was stark. Richard looked around, his eyes narrowing slightly at the worn furniture and faded wallpaper. "Charming," he muttered, the sarcasm thinly veiled. Emma gestured toward the living room, feeling the tension thicken. They sat opposite each other, worlds apart in every way. "Why are you here?" she asked, voice steady but cautious. "My son is destroying himself," Richard said bluntly. "Ethan hasn't left his office in 3 days. He's making reckless decisions, alienating board members, jeopardizing the Tokyo acquisition." Emma's heart clenched. She'd seen the toll it was taking on him, but hearing it laid bare was sobering. Richard fixed her with a piercing stare. "Whatever happened between you has compromised his judgment." Indignation flared. "And you think that's my responsibility to fix?" "I think you need to understand the full picture before you make any irreversible decisions." He opened his briefcase and withdrew a folder, placing it carefully on the coffee table. Emma's fingers trembled as she opened it. Inside were financial records, emails, hotel receipts, a detailed account of Liam's numerous infidelities during their engagement. "It was never faithful," Richard said flatly. "Not once." The revelation struck like a blow, but the pain was muted. It felt distant, like reading about a stranger's betrayal. "Why show me this now?" Emma asked, suspicion tingling in her veins. Richard's gaze softened. "Because you need to understand who you're dealing with. Liam isn't seeking reconciliation out of love. He's jealous and bitter." Emma nodded slowly, digesting the bitter truth. "But that doesn't explain Ethan's behavior, the private investigator, the collection of your work." "My youngest son has never been good at expressing emotions," Richard explained. "When he discovered your talent, he invested completely. It's how he understands the value of things others overlook." Emma snapped. "I'm not a corporate acquisition." For the first time, Richard's eyes held something like approval. "No, you're not, which is why you've unsettled him so completely." He pulled a small leather-bound journal from his case. This was Ethan's refuge as a boy, a place to express what he couldn't say aloud. He left it open on his desk yesterday. I took the liberty of bringing it to you. Emma's breath hitched. She opened the journal to the marked page. The handwriting was unmistakably Ethan's, raw, honest, vulnerable. He wrote about seeing her work for the first time, the flood of emotions it stirred: recognition, hope, longing. His admiration grew over the years, alongside frustration as Liam entered the picture. Reading his words, Emma saw a man torn between desire and restraint, struggling with feelings he'd never voiced. "This doesn't excuse the investigator," she whispered, her voice thick. "No," Richard agreed. "It was a mistake born of desperation. He feared Liam would hurt you." Emma put the journal down, emotions swirling. "Why are you telling me all this? You made it clear you didn't approve of me." Richard sighed, a rare vulnerability flickering across his features. "I've spent a lifetime steering my sons toward what I thought was best. It's taken me until now to realize I've been wrong. Ethan has never defied me the way he has since meeting you. That alone tells me you're exactly what he needs." He stood, retrieving his briefcase. "There's one more thing." Emma's heart pounded. "Liam didn't leave you at the altar of his own accord." Her breath caught, fear coiling tight. "What do you mean?" Richard's face hardened. "He was paid to disappear, $5 million transferred to an offshore account." A cold shock surged through her. "By Ethan?" "Yes." The admission landed like a physical blow. "Why?" she whispered. "Because he believed you were using Liam to access the Carter fortune. He was wrong." Richard paused at the door. "My son thinks he's lost you. He fears you'll choose neither of them. Whatever you decide, make it with all the facts, not just the ones Liam wanted you to see." After he left, Emma sat alone, clutching Ethan's journal, reading entry after entry from his first discovery of her talent to the day they married. What she'd thought was obsession was a flawed, desperate love. Tears streamed freely as the pieces fell into place. Then, her phone buzzed with a message from Lily. "You okay? Everyone's talking about the gala tonight. Is it true you left Ethan for Liam?" Emma stared at the screen, a storm of emotions churning inside. She'd almost forgotten the Gala Sophia's event, but thoughts of Ethan facing Sophia's scheming alone sparked a fierce protectiveness. "I need a dress," she called Lily. "Something unforgettable." "I'm on my way," came the cheerful reply. Hours later, Emma stood outside the Metropolitan Museum of Art, the red carpet a shimmering path lined with Manhattan's elite. The night air buzzed with excitement and tension. Her midnight blue silk gown clung like armor, making her brown skin glow like burnished gold. The pearl earrings, her grandmother's final gift, rested gently at her ears, a talisman of strength. Inside, the grand hall glittered under chandeliers, conversations buzzing like electricity. Emma scanned the crowd, heart pounding. She spotted Ethan first standing alone near a Roman sculpture, glass of untouched scotch in hand, looking more isolated than ever. Sophia lurked nearby, predatory in crimson silk, her eyes gleaming with challenge. Across the room, Liam was in his element, charming socialites with a practiced smile. But Emma had eyes only for Ethan. She moved through the crowd with purpose, the click of her heels steady and sure. Ethan turned as she approached, his face lighting with hope and disbelief. "Emma," he breathed, "you came." "I had to," she replied softly. "We need to talk." Before he could respond, Liam appeared, his hand sliding possessively onto Emma's elbow. "Emma, you look stunning," he said smoothly, eyes flicking to Ethan with thinly veiled triumph. "I wasn't sure we'd see you tonight." She pulled her arm free, voice cold. "I'm here with my husband, Liam." Ethan's eyes widened at the deliberate emphasis. "Your temporary husband, you mean?" Liam smirked. Emma met his gaze evenly. "I know everything now, including who really paid you to leave me at the altar?" Liam's face drained of color. "I don't know what you're talking about." $5 million, she continued, voice low and steady. "Your price for breaking my heart." "Richard told me everything." Ethan stiffened beside her, fury flickering beneath his calm. "My father did what?" Liam's charm returned like a shield. "Whatever he told you is a lie," Liam snapped. "I left because I discovered Ethan had been stalking you for years. I was protecting you." Emma finished coldly, while sleeping with at least 4 other women during our engagement. Gasps rippled through the crowd, the weight of the accusation hanging heavy. Liam's face flushed with anger, losing control. "You're making a mistake," he hissed. "Ethan isn't who you think he is." "No," Emma agreed, turning fully to Ethan. "He's more." Ethan's vulnerable expression broke her heart. He looked at her like she was the only truth in a world of lies. "We need to talk," she repeated, voice trembling with need. "Somewhere private." Without hesitation, he took her hand and led her away through a side door, the sounds of the gala fading to a distant murmur. Outside, beneath a blanket of stars, 2 wounded souls faced the truth, the shattered pieces of their past, finally laid bare. Remember the crocodile sunscreen? Just when you think you're protected, life throws a surprise storm, and you realize, sometimes, the only way to heal is to get a little wet. The gallery opening. 2 months later, the Chelsea storefront buzzed quietly with the morning sun streaming through the expansive windows. The raw space, with its exposed brick walls and polished concrete floors, was transformed into a canvas ready to showcase not just art, but Emma's story. The high ceilings amplified the soft murmur of construction workers finishing touches, while the scent of fresh paint mingled with the faint aroma of old bricks, grounding the space with both newness and history. "This is perfect," Emma breathed, spinning slowly, her hands barely touching the walls, as if trying to absorb the place into her very being. Ethan stood nearby, his usually reserved expression softened into something warm. "It's yours." That simple phrase carried the weight of years, the hopes, the battles, the unexpected journey that led here. Emma felt a flutter in her chest. "Before you say no," Ethan interrupted gently, "this isn't charity. It's an investment. In you. In the vision I fell in love with years ago." Her eyes flickered to his, the rare vulnerability there lighting something in her own heart. They had spent weeks rebuilding trust, layer by fragile layer. The tears, the fights, the silences, they'd navigated them all, moving slowly toward something more solid. Emma still maintained the brownstone in Brooklyn as her personal studio, while the new gallery became the heart of her professional life. Ethan respected her independence, never pressing, only supporting. "We're partners," she declared one afternoon, her voice firm. "Partners," he agreed, sealing the deal with a kiss that tasted of promise. As they stepped back into the bustling gallery, Emma's phone buzzed. It was Lily. "Have you seen it?" Inside the transformed Chelsea space, excitement pulsed like a living heartbeat. Art critics mingled with celebrities, established collectors chatted with wide-eyed art students invited specially for the occasion. The place buzzed with energy, but at its center stood Emma, a beacon of calm and confidence, wrapped in a midnight blue gown that matched the shade Ethan had used in his own paintings. The dress clung to her like a second skin, shimmering subtly under the gallery lights, and her grandmother's pearl earrings peeked delicately from beneath her curls, a tangible connection to the woman who had shaped her life. Ethan appeared beside her, a glass of champagne in hand, his usual stoic demeanor softened by a nervous smile. "Terrified," he whispered, his voice a deep rumble against her ear. "Terrified and exhilarated," Emma admitted, accepting the drink gratefully. "What if no one understands what we're trying to do here?" His eyes, warm and open, held hers with unwavering steadiness. "They will, and if they don't, it doesn't matter. This isn't about them, it's about the artists, about the voices that have never had a platform, about your vision." Emma's chest swelled with pride and purpose. This gallery wasn't just a business, it was her mission. Every exposed brick, every carefully chosen spotlight, every inch of polished concrete told the story of resilience, struggle, and triumph, both hers and the artists she championed. The weeks since the televised interview had been a whirlwind. The public's fascination with their story threatened to eclipse Emma's artistic identity, but Ethan's deft handling of the media shifted the focus back to her vision and her work. Sophia had vanished from their lives after a brief, ugly confrontation where she admitted to leaking the emails in a jealous attempt to destroy their marriage. Liam, remarkably, had reached out with a sincere apology, acknowledging his faults and accepting a new role managing Carter Holdings' European branch far away from New York and its temptations. Even Richard Carter, Ethan's father, had become an unexpected ally. His initial skepticism softened into grudging respect as he observed Emma's sharp business acumen and unwavering commitment to Ethan's happiness. The old man's gruff admission, "You're good for him, better than I expected," felt like a hard-won bridge toward a future none of them had dared to envision. As Emma stepped to the podium, the gallery fell into a hush. The room held its collective breath, awaiting the woman whose story had become the beating heart of the space. "Welcome to the Thompson Gallery," Emma began, her voice steady despite the fluttering of nerves beneath her skin. "This space represents not just my dream, but the dreams of countless artists whose voices deserve to be heard. Each piece you see tonight tells a story of struggle, of joy, and of the complex human experience that connects us all." Her eyes scanned the crowd, landing on those who mattered most. Lily, her mentor, beaming with pride. Ethan, whose gaze never left her face, love etched in every line. As she spoke about the gallery's mission, Emma felt an overwhelming sense of rightness. This was the culmination of years spent fighting to be seen, not just as a woman or a wife, but as an artist, a visionary. "I want to thank my husband, Ethan," she said, her voice softening, "whose belief in this vision never wavered. Without his support, his insight, and his faith in me, this gallery would have remained just a dream." The applause swelled, a wave of warmth and acceptance washing over her. But even amid the celebration, Emma caught the flicker of something more intimate in Ethan's eyes, pride, yes, but also something tender, protective, and deeply personal. That was perfect, Ethan whispered as he took her hand, lifting it to his lips. Hardly perfect, she laughed, leaning into him. But lucky. Definitely. They slipped away from the crowd toward the back room Ethan had kept mysteriously off limits until tonight. Curiosity gnawed at Emma for weeks, and now she would finally see what secrets it held. What have you been up to? She asked, trying to mask the nervous anticipation in her voice. You'll see, he replied, a hint of a smile tugging at the corner of his mouth. The small crowd that had gathered outside the door parted as Ethan guided her inside. He placed his hands gently over her eyes. Ready? Yes, she whispered. He removed his hands and Emma gasped. The walls were covered in a continuous installation, her own artwork, arranged chronologically from her earliest student pieces to the most recent creations. Each brushstroke told a story, a chapter in her journey from uncertain girl to confident artist. In the center stood a glass case containing her grandmother's ancient paint-stained palette and brushes, preserved like sacred relics. Ethan, she breathed, tears brimming. How did you... She started. I've been collecting your work for years, remember? He said softly. And your grandmother's tools were in a box in the attic of the Brooklyn house. I found them when I went to collect some of your supplies. Emma moved slowly around the room, overwhelmed by the visual record of her artistic evolution. Each piece was a stepping stone, leading her to this moment. This room, Ethan said, is called the Art of Thompson Gallery, because your vision, your talent, is what makes this place special. The thoughtfulness behind the gesture struck her deeply. This was more than support. It was a public declaration of pride and respect. Wait, she said. There's one more thing. He smiled, leading her to a small alcove hidden from the main exhibition. There hung a painting she'd created in the Lake House studio, the raw, emotional piece she made after their first night together. Beside it was one of Ethan's abstract paintings, the midnight blue canvas streaked with veins of gold that first revealed his emotional depth to her. Our beginning, he said simply, slipping his arms around her waist. The intimate display was a secret shared between them, a testament to their journey from strangers to something far more profound. The evening passed in a blur of congratulations, sales, and critical acclaim. By the time the last guest had departed, Emma's feet ached from standing in heels, but her heart felt full to bursting. Successful night, Ethan said, locking the gallery doors behind them. I counted at least 15 sold pieces, she said with a grin. 17, he corrected. The DTT sculpture went just before closing, and Amara's optics sold to the museum director from Boston. Pride shone in his eyes. See? I told you they'd understand your vision. Instead of calling for their waiting car, Ethan suggested a walk through Chelsea's quiet streets. Hand in hand, they strolled beneath the soft glow of streetlights. A year ago today, Emma said softly, I was supposed to marry Liam. Ethan squeezed her hand. Do you ever regret how things turned out? She stopped, facing him fully under the lamplight. Not for a single moment. Liam leaving me was the best thing that ever happened. Relief flickered across his face, but doubt lingered in his eyes, the ever-present fear of being second choice. I have something for you, he said, pulling a small velvet box from his pocket. Our anniversary isn't for another week, she reminded him, curiosity sparking. Not our wedding anniversary, he said, the day I finally found the courage to claim what I'd wanted for so long. Inside the box lay a breathtaking ring, the black diamond from her original wedding band, now reset in a starburst pattern surrounded by smaller stones. Our beginning was unusual, he said, built on an arrangement rather than a choice. I thought you might want a ring. You helped choose a symbol of what we've built together, not what we fell into. Tears blurred her vision. Are you proposing to me, Ethan Carter? His rare, full smile transformed his face. I'm asking my wife of 1 year to marry me again. No secrets, no arrangements, no time limits. Just us. Emma pulled him into a kiss that made a passing couple whistle in appreciation. Later, wrapped in the sanctuary of their bedroom, Ethan traced lazy patterns on her bare shoulder. The brownstone in Brooklyn, he mused. Would you consider living there part-time? I've grown fond of it. You want to leave your perfect penthouse for my grandmother's creaky old house? He tucked a curl behind her ear. I want a place that's truly ours, not just mine or yours, but ours. The suggestion touched her deeply, a quiet promise that their lives would blend, not collide. I'd like that, she said, though we'll need to fix the plumbing. His laugh rumbled through the room. I think I can manage that. As they lay entwined, making plans for the future, a second gallery location, maybe children, Emma marveled at their journey. From humiliation and desperation to passion and partnership, their love had blossomed in the most unexpected ways. What are you thinking? Ethan asked. That I never knew love could be like this. So complete, so transformative. His eyes darkened as he pulled her close. I spent years admiring you from afar, wanting what seemed impossible. Now, I wake up every morning amazed you're actually here, that you chose me. I'll keep choosing you, she promised, tracing his jaw. Every day, for the rest of our lives. Their lips met in a kiss that blazed with the promise of forever, a story of two wounded souls, finding healing, passion, and completion. Remember the crocodile sunscreen? Life often blindsides us with unexpected burns, but sometimes the sting clears the way for a new dawn. New beginnings and quiet promises. The morning sunlight filtered softly through the lace curtains of the Brooklyn brownstone, casting delicate patterns on the hardwood floor. Emma awoke, wrapped in Ethan's arms, the warmth of his body a comforting anchor in a world that often felt uncertain. The scent of fresh coffee wafted from the kitchen downstairs, mingling with the faint smell of old books and paint that clung to the walls like memories. For the first time in a long time, Emma felt a deep, unshakable peace. They had moved into the brownstone only a few weeks ago. The penthouse in Manhattan still awaited Ethan's touch, a symbol of his previous life. But here in Brooklyn, in the house that had once belonged to Emma's grandmother, they were building something entirely new. Emma slipped from the bed and padded quietly into the kitchen, where Ethan was carefully pouring coffee into two mismatched mugs. "Good morning," she said softly. He turned, eyes bright with the ease of shared mornings. "Morning. Did you sleep well?" "Better than I have in months." They fell into an easy rhythm, the kind that only develops when two people have learned to trust and cherish each other's presence. Over breakfast, they talked about the gallery's next steps. Emma had secured a promising artist collective from Detroit to showcase in their upcoming fall exhibit, a group known for their bold exploration of urban decay and renewal. Ethan, meanwhile, was researching eco-friendly renovations for the brownstone, eager to honor the old house's character while making it a model of sustainability. "I want this to be our sanctuary," Ethan said, stirring cream into his coffee. "A place where we can create, live, and grow without compromise." Emma nodded, her fingers tracing the rim of her mug. "It feels right, like we're finally planting roots." Outside, the city buzzed awake. Sirens in the distance, the hum of early commuters, and the occasional bark of a dog, all reminders of the vibrant life surrounding their quiet retreat. Later that afternoon, they took a stroll through Prospect Park, the cherry blossoms bursting in clouds of pink and white. Children chased after pigeons, couples lounged on blankets, and artists sketched quietly on benches. Emma breathed in the scent of blooming flowers and earth warmed by the sun, feeling herself settle deeper into this new chapter. They found a bench beneath an ancient oak tree, where Ethan pulled a small, leather-bound notebook from his jacket pocket. "I've been working on something," he said, flipping it open, "some sketches and ideas for a new series. Abstract, but inspired by the city's energy." Emma leaned over to look. The pages were filled with bold strokes of charcoal and color, capturing movement and light in ways that felt both spontaneous and deliberate. "You've been hiding this talent," she teased. He shrugged, a rare flush coloring his cheeks. "I guess I was waiting for the right moment to share it." Emma's heart swelled. "I'm honored you chose to share it with me." They spent the rest of the afternoon wandering through galleries and bookshops, savoring the feeling of freedom that came with leaving behind the relentless pace of Manhattan's art world. That evening, as twilight settled over the city, they returned to the brownstone and settled on the creaky old sofa in the living room. a cup of tea each in hand. Emma reached out, taking Ethan's hand in hers. "Do you ever think about how far we've come?" He smiled, his thumb tracing lazy circles on her skin. "Every day. It feels like a lifetime ago that we met under such complicated circumstances." She laughed softly. "Complicated is putting it mildly." "But here we are," he said. "Proof that even the most unexpected beginnings can lead to something beautiful." Emma's thoughts drifted to the letter she'd received earlier that day, a simple envelope with no return address. Inside was a photograph of her grandmother as a young woman, standing proudly beside a small canvas that Emma recognized as one of the earliest paintings in the gallery's collection. A note was scrawled on the back in handwriting that matched the signature, "Keep creating. We're watching." She showed the photo to Ethan, who examined it thoughtfully. "Could it be from someone who knew your grandmother?" "Maybe," Emma said. "Or maybe it's a sign that I'm on the right path." Ethan squeezed her hand. "Whatever it is, it's a blessing." Days turned into weeks, and the gallery flourished. Emma's careful curation and Ethan's quiet support created a haven for artists who had long felt invisible. They hosted workshops, artist talks, and community events, weaving the gallery into the vibrant tapestry of the city's creative scene. One afternoon, as Emma arranged new sculptures for an upcoming exhibit, she heard the familiar chime of her phone. A message from Lily. "Dinner tonight? Got something exciting to share?" Emma's smile was immediate. "Absolutely." That evening, the three women, Emma, Lily, and Sophie, the artist behind the acclaimed sculpture, Amara, gathered at a cozy bistro in Williamsburg. The air buzzed with laughter and the clinking of glasses as they exchanged stories and plans. Sophie, with her fierce passion and unyielding spirit, had become a close friend and collaborator. "We've been offered a chance to take the gallery on a tour," Sophie announced, eyes shining. "Detroit, Chicago, Boston. We could bring these voices to cities hungry for new perspectives." Emma's mind raced with possibility. "It's ambitious, but it feels like the next step." Lily nodded. "You've built something remarkable here, Emma. It deserves to be shared." As the night deepened, the conversation turned to dreams of future projects, public murals, artist residencies, and collaborations that blurred the lines between art and activism. Emma felt the weight of her journey lift, replaced by the lightness of hope. Back home, Ethan was waiting with a bottle of wine and a knowing smile. "How was the powwow?" he teased. "Transformative," she said, pouring them both a glass. "We're going to change the world, one city at a time." He raised his glass. "To that and to us." The days that followed brought new challenges and triumphs. Emma navigated the delicate balance of managing the gallery, nurturing relationships, and protecting her own creative spark. Ethan's steady presence was her anchor, his faith in her an unshakable foundation. One crisp autumn morning, as the leaves blazed in fiery reds and golds, Emma found herself standing before a large blank canvas in the studio above the gallery. The room was flooded with soft light, the smell of turpentine and oil paint thick in the air. She dipped her brush into a deep cobalt blue and made the first deliberate stroke, a bold line cutting across the empty space. Ethan watched from the doorway, silent and supportive. "Starting a new chapter," she murmured, "or finishing an old one." Her brush moved with growing confidence, each stroke a release, a confession, a declaration. Hours later, she stepped back to reveal a sprawling abstract landscape, chaotic yet harmonious, dark and light, entwined in a dance of contrast and balance. Ethan crossed the room and pulled her into a hug. "It's beautiful," he whispered. Emma leaned into him. "So are you." Outside, the city pulsed with life, a constant reminder that, no matter how winding the road, they had found their way home. In the quiet moments, beneath the fading light, Emma realized that love and art were not so different. Both demanded courage, vulnerability, and the willingness to embrace the unknown. And in Ethan's arms, she was ready to face whatever came next, shadows of the past and unseen battles. The calm they had carved out in Brooklyn was fragile, delicate as the first frost that touched the amber leaves lining the streets. Emma could feel it, a subtle shift beneath the surface of their carefully woven life. The past, like a slow-moving tide, was beginning to ripple through the present, threatening to unsettle everything they had built. It started with the phone calls, quiet at first, easy to dismiss as business interruptions. But soon, the whispers became louder, the rumors crawling through the art circles and social elites with relentless persistence. One crisp morning, Emma stood by the window of their gallery, watching the autumn fog curl around the brownstone like a ghostly embrace. Her phone buzzed again. The screen displayed a name she hadn't seen in months: Liam. Her heart caught, not from longing, but from a complicated mix of resentment and curiosity. The message was brief. "We need to talk. Please." She stared at it, fingers trembling slightly as memories of the altar, the humiliation, the abandonment washed over her. Liam's sudden return was like an echo from a wound she thought had begun to heal. Later that day, Ethan returned from a meeting in the city, his expression guarded as he stepped into the brownstone's cozy living room. "I heard from Liam," Emma said quietly, watching his reaction. Ethan's jaw tightened. "Did you respond?" "Not yet." He crossed the room and took her hand, the calluses from years of gripping power tempered by the tenderness in his touch. "You don't owe him anything." She nodded, but the knot in her stomach refused to loosen. That evening, they sat across from each other at the dinner table, the soft glow of candlelight casting long shadows on the walls. Emma's mind replayed the events of the past year: the sudden wedding, the stormy nights at the lake house, the gradual unveiling of Ethan's true self beneath the billionaire's mask. "Do you think he's trying to sabotage us?" Emma asked, breaking the silence. Ethan's eyes darkened, reflecting the flickering flames. "Liam's motives have always been murky, but he won't get to us. Not again." The resolve in his voice was reassuring, yet Emma felt the weight of unseen battles looming on the horizon. The next day, a package arrived at the gallery, a sleek black envelope with no return address. Inside was a series of photographs, intimate moments from Emma's life, taken without her knowledge, alongside captions that whispered threats and warnings. Her pulse raced as she showed Ethan the evidence. "This is harassment," he said grimly. "We'll find out who's behind it." They reported the incident to the authorities, but the feeling of intrusion lingered, a shadow casting doubt over their sanctuary. Emma found herself retreating into her art, the canvas becoming a battleground where she fought fear with color and form. Each stroke was a declaration of defiance, a refusal to be silenced or controlled. One late night, as the city's hum softened into a distant lullaby, Ethan joined her in the studio. His presence was steady, a grounding force amid the chaos. "You're not alone," he whispered, brushing a stray curl from her face. She looked up, eyes glistening with unshed tears. "Sometimes it feels like the past won't let go." He shook his head, voice firm yet gentle. "We'll face it together." Their bond deepened in those quiet hours, a silent promise that no shadow could extinguish the light they shared. Weeks passed, and the gallery's reputation grew, attracting new artists and supporters who believed in Emma's vision of authenticity and inclusivity. Yet, the undercurrent of tension persisted, a reminder that success often came with a price. One afternoon, as Emma prepared for a panel discussion on art and social justice, her phone buzzed with a cryptic message. "Meet me at the park, noon, I have answers." Her breath hitched. The sender was unknown, but the implication was clear: this was connected to the shadow stalking her. Ethan insisted on accompanying her, his protective instincts flaring despite her protestations. At the park, beneath the skeletal branches of a ginkgo tree, they found a woman waiting sharp-eyed and cautious, with a folder clutched tightly in her hands. "I'm Claire," she said, voice low. "I've been investigating the harassment." Emma and Ethan exchanged glances, the weight of years of secrets and lies hanging between them. Claire handed over documents, emails, financial records, and photographs linking Liam's circle to the campaign against Emma. "It wasn't just jealousy," Claire explained. "There's a network working to undermine you both. Powerful people who see your success as a threat." Ethan's fists clenched. "We'll dismantle them." Emma's mind reeled, the pieces falling into place, the mysterious disruptions, the leaks to the press, the relentless pressure that had been mounting. But amid the storm of betrayal, there was an unshakable truth. Their love, forged in fire and tested by adversity, was their greatest weapon. That night, as they stood on the rooftop of the brownstone, the city lights twinkling like distant stars, Ethan pulled Emma close. "No matter what comes," he vowed, "I'm yours." Completely. She leaned into him, heart swelling with fierce certainty. "We're unstoppable," she whispered. And in that moment, surrounded by the vastness of the city and the intimacy of their embrace, they were. Remember the black diamond ring? It shimmered on her finger, a symbol not just of their marriage, but of the strength they had forged together in the face of shadows. The gala confrontation and public reckoning, the night of the Chandler Foundation. Gala arrived with the unmistakable buzz of anticipation. Manhattan's elite gathered beneath the grand chandeliers of the Metropolitan Museum of Art, a sea of glistening gowns and tailored tuxedos reflecting the soft, golden light. Emma adjusted the midnight blue silk of her gown, feeling the familiar weight of her grandmother's pearl earrings against her skin, a comforting anchor amidst the swirling storm of emotions. Lily squeezed her hand gently. "You look unforgettable," she whispered with a knowing smile. Emma gave a small laugh. "I'm hoping unforgettable in the right way." As they entered the great hall, whispers rippled through the crowd. The story of Emma's whirlwind marriage to Ethan Carter had spread like wildfire tabloids, eager to dissect every detail. Tonight wasn't just a celebration. It was a battleground where reputations would be made or shattered. Emma's eyes immediately sought Ethan's, and there he was, standing alone near a towering Roman sculpture, his posture taut but dignified. The tailored tuxedo clung perfectly to his powerful frame, but the shadows beneath his eyes betrayed the sleepless nights and mounting pressure. Sophia Moretti was already weaving through the crowd, the predatory smile she reserved for social conquests fixed firmly in place. Dressed in a crimson silk gown that turned heads, she eyed Ethan and Emma with sharp calculation. Across the room, Liam held court with a cluster of socialites, his charming grin in place, but his eyes flickered with something darker when they landed on Emma. Emma's breath hitched. It was a scene ripped from a soap opera, and yet the stakes were all too real. Taking a steadying breath, she moved through the crowd with quiet determination, her eyes locked on Ethan's. He caught her gaze, a flicker of hope and relief flashing in his blue depths. "Emma," he murmured, voice catching in his throat. "You came." "I had to," she answered softly. "We need to talk." Before Ethan could respond, Liam appeared at her side, his hand resting possessively on her elbow. "Emma, you look stunning," Liam said, the compliment dripping with false warmth. His eyes flicked toward Ethan, the tension between the two men palpable. "I wasn't sure we'd see you tonight." Emma's jaw tightened. She removed Liam's hand firmly. "I'm here with my husband." Ethan's eyes widened slightly at the deliberate emphasis on husband, a subtle but clear claim. "Temporary husband, you mean?" Liam retorted, his smile sharpening. "Given what you now know about his unusual interest in you." Emma's voice dropped to ice. "I know everything now, including who really paid you to leave me at the altar." The color drained from Liam's face. "I don't know what you're talking about." $5 million, she continued evenly. "Your price for breaking my heart publicly. Your father told me everything." Ethan stiffened beside her, the possessive hand at her waist tightening imperceptibly. "My father did what?" Liam's golden boy facade cracked for a moment. "Whatever he told you is a lie." Liam recovered swiftly. "I left because I discovered Ethan had been stalking you for years. I was protecting you." Emma cut in sharply, voice loud enough for nearby guests to hear, "while sleeping with at least 4 other women during our engagement." A hush fell over the crowd. Shocked murmurs rippled like a wave. Liam's face flushed with anger and humiliation. "You're making a mistake," he hissed. "Ethan isn't who you think he is." "No," Emma agreed, turning to face her husband fully. "He's more." The vulnerability in Ethan's eyes as he looked at her struck a chord deep within her chest. He looked as if she were a mirage that might vanish if he blinked. "We need to talk," she repeated softly, her voice steady despite the chaos around them. "Somewhere private." Without a word, Ethan took her hand and led her away from the crowd, through a side door onto a small enclosed courtyard. Stars glittered overhead, the sounds of the gala fading to a distant murmur. They stood facing each other, the weight of the night pressing in. "Your father came to see me," Emma said, voice low. Ethan's expression darkened. "Whatever he said." "He showed me your journal," she interrupted gently, "and told me that he, not you, paid Liam to leave me." Shock registered on Ethan's face. "My father did that?" "Why would he?" Emma asked. "He thought I was after the Carter fortune," Ethan said bluntly. "He was trying to protect the family in his own way." "God, Ethan, I had no idea." Anguish filled his voice. Emma stepped closer, her fingers brushing the flecks of darker blue in his eyes. "I also know about the private investigator, about your collection of my work Liam showed me." Ethan's jaw tightened. "I should have told you from the beginning that I'd been admiring you from afar for years. That you recognized something in my work that spoke to you," she finished softly. "That's not obsession, Ethan. That's connection." Hope flickered in his eyes, quickly tempered by caution. "The investigator was a mistake. I was afraid Liam would hurt you, but that doesn't justify invading your privacy." "No, it doesn't," she agreed, warmth creeping back into her voice. "You made mistakes, serious ones, but I don't doubt what we have is real." His shoulders slumped slightly, the weight of his guilt palpable. "I know." "When Liam left you at the altar, did you have anything to do with that?" she demanded. I would never hurt you that way, Emma." "But you've been lying to me from the beginning," she said, pain cutting deep. "All those moments when you pretended we were just getting to know each other. You already knew everything about me." "Not everything," he said quietly. "I knew your work, your public persona. I didn't know the woman who challenges me, who sees through my defenses, who makes me want to be better." His sincerity made her waver, but the hurt ran too deep. "I don't know what's real anymore, Ethan. Between us, in this marriage, was any of it genuine?" "All of it," he said fiercely. "Everything I feel for you is real, more real than anything I've ever felt." "How can I believe that? You married me under false pretenses. You've been manipulating this situation from the start. Was it about family honor or corporate succession? Or was it always about possessing me?" The word possessing visibly stung him. "Is that what you think of me? That I see you as a possession?" "I need time, space to sort through all of this." Something in his expression shuddered. "Where will you go?" "I still have my grandmother's house in Brooklyn." He nodded once. "I'll have my driver take you in the morning." Without another word, he turned and walked to his study, closing the door with a soft click that hurt more than a slam. Alone in the vast penthouse, Emma felt the fragile foundation of her new life crumbling. As she packed for her departure, tears finally came not for Liam, but for Ethan and what they had shared. Had any of it been real, or had she been a pawn in a game between brothers? That night, she lay awake, clutching the black diamond ring, the only constant in a storm of uncertainty. "Remember the crocodile sunscreen?" she thought wryly. "Sometimes the oddest things stick with you, just like this tangled mess of love and betrayal. Shattered pieces and new beginnings." The small Brooklyn brownstone stood quietly under the early morning sun, a sanctuary that felt both familiar and alien to Emma. Dust motes danced lazily in the shafts of light, streaming through the windows as she pushed open the heavy front door. The silence wrapped around her like a thick blanket, comforting yet suffocating in its stillness. This house had been her grandmother's refuge, a place of warmth and stories that had shaped Emma's childhood after her parents' passing. Now, it was her escape from the chaos that had consumed her life in Manhattan. The grandeur and cold elegance of Ethan's penthouse felt miles away as she crossed the threshold into a world that smelled of old wood, faded memories, and quiet resilience. As she moved through the rooms, memories surfaced in unexpected flashes. The worn piano keys she had once hesitated to touch now beckoned with their familiar timbre. The kitchen table bore the faint stains of countless homework sessions and paint-mixing experiments. Here, in these humble surroundings, she had learned to dream. "I need your wisdom now, Grandma," she whispered, voice trembling with vulnerability. "I don't know what to believe anymore." 3 days passed in solitude. Emma ignored the persistent calls from Lily, gallery owners curious about her sudden disappearance from the art scene, and even Liam's desperate messages. The brownstone became her cocoon, and she surrendered herself to her art, the only language that could contain the storm raging inside her. Her studio, a small back room painted in soft creams and scattered with canvases, became a battlefield for her emotions. Each brushstroke was raw, jagged, a catharsis of heartbreak and confusion. Dark swaths of color clashed with bursts of light, mirroring the turmoil she felt. The furious energy of her painting masked the quiet despair beneath. On the 4th morning, a sharp knock shattered the silence. Wrapped in a soft robe, Emma peered through the peephole. The sight of Richard Carter, impeccably dressed and exuding old-world authority, made her heart skip. Hesitation warred with curiosity before she opened the door wider. "May I come in?" he asked, his voice low but commanding. Confusion overrode her instinct to refuse. She stepped back, allowing him entry into the modest foyer. Richard's sharp eyes swept the room with undisguised curiosity and something else, a hint of respect perhaps. "Charming," he muttered with a wry smile that didn't quite reach his eyes. "May we sit?" Emma led him to the living room, the contrast between this humble space and his palatial penthouse stark. She sat stiffly as he settled into the worn armchair, folding his hands across his lap. "Why are you here?" she asked bluntly, unable to hide the edge in her voice. "My son is destroying himself," Richard said without preamble. "What do you mean?" "He hasn't left his office in 3 days. Reckless decisions, alienating board members, jeopardizing the Tokyo acquisition. Whatever happened between you has compromised his judgment." Emma's chest tightened, indignation bubbling to the surface. "And you think that's my responsibility?" "I think you need to understand the full picture before you make any irreversible decisions." He opened his leather briefcase and withdrew a folder, placing it carefully on the coffee table between them. "Liam came to see you, I presume. Showed you evidence of Ethan's supposed obsession." Emma's hands tightened into fists as she nodded. "How did you know that?" "Because my youngest son has been trying to undermine his brother since they were children," Richard replied coolly. "What Liam didn't show you was this." She hesitated before opening the folder. Inside were financial records, emails, hotel receipts, a paper trail exposing Liam's numerous infidelities during their engagement. The boy she thought she loved had been unfaithful from the start. The revelation stung less than she expected, as if it belonged to another life. But the questions lingered. Why now? Why here? "Why are you telling me this?" Richard's gaze softened for the first time. "I've spent my life steering my sons toward what I thought was best. It's taken me until now to realize I've been wrong." He stood and retrieved a small, leather-bound journal from his briefcase. "This belonged to Ethan's mother," he explained. "After she left, it became his refuge, the only place he could express feelings he couldn't show to the world." He opened it to page 94. Emma's breath caught as she saw Ethan's handwriting, confident yet raw, spilling across the page. "I saw her work today and felt something I haven't experienced since Mother left. Recognition." The Thompson exhibition showcased an anonymous artist whose use of color spoke directly to a forgotten part of me. When I finally saw her across the gallery, explaining her technique to that pompous collector, I understood why her work resonated so deeply. There's an authenticity to her that matches her art. Genuine, uncompromising, luminous. Emma traced the lines with trembling fingers, each word a revelation. The journal detailed Ethan's growing admiration, his struggle to keep distance as Liam pursued her, and the torment of watching from the sidelines. "This doesn't excuse the private investigator," she said softly. "No," Richard admitted. "That was a mistake born of desperation. Ethan feared you would be hurt. My younger son has a history of pursuing women for their connections, then discarding them like he did with you." Emma's heart ached as the pieces fell into place. Precisely, Richard said, leaning forward. What Ethan did was misguided, but never malicious. He loved you from afar, feared losing you forever. Why tell me all this now? Because you need the truth, he said firmly, not just the lies Liam fed you. The old man's unexpected vulnerability caught her off guard. I don't approve of you, he added quietly, but I respect what you've brought to Ethan's life. As he rose to leave, he paused at the door. There's one more thing. Emma's heart pounded. What? Liam didn't leave you at the altar of his own accord. Her breath hitched. Richard's eyes darkened. He was paid to disappear that day, $5 million deposited in an offshore account. By Ethan, she whispered, dread twisting her stomach. By me. The admission landed like a punch. Why? Because I believed you were using Liam to access the Carter name and fortune. I was wrong. He looked back at her, solemn and sincere. Ethan believes he's lost you, that you've chosen Liam or neither of them. You must decide with all the facts. After Richard's departure, Emma sat alone, Ethan's journal cradled in her hands. The words painted a portrait of a man she barely knew, flawed, passionate, desperate to protect her in his own way. Tears blurred her vision, not from heartbreak, but understanding. Then her phone buzzed, a message from Lily checking in. Are you okay? Everyone's talking about the gala. Is it true you left Ethan for Liam? Emma stared at the screen, a cocktail of confusion and resolve swirling inside her. She'd forgotten the gala altogether, a fire ignited within her, not of despair, but fierce determination. I need a dress, she whispered into the phone. Something unforgettable. On my way, Lily answered with a grin. Later that evening, Emma stood on the steps of the Metropolitan Museum of Art once again, this time as a force to be reckoned with. Her gown shimmered like a midnight sky, backless and elegant, every eye drawn to her radiant presence. The pearl earrings, a legacy from her grandmother, caught the light and glimmered like stars, a symbol of strength and resilience. As the crowd whispered and turned, Emma held her head high, ready to confront the past and claim her future. Remember the crocodile sunscreen? She thought with a faint smile. Sometimes you need protection, not just from the sun, but from the world's harshest storms. The gala, truths and triumphs. The grand entrance of the Metropolitan Museum was ablaze with light and excitement, the kind that made even the most stoic of New York's elite pause with anticipation. Limousines glided in like swans, velvet ropes parted, and the flash of cameras punctuated the night air. The annual Chandler Foundation Gala was not just a charity event. It was the pinnacle of social power plays, where reputations were made or shattered with a single glance. Emma inhaled deeply, the crisp spring air mingling with the faint scent of jasmine from her gown. The midnight blue silk hugged her like a second skin, a testament to resilience and reinvention. Tonight, she was no longer the abandoned bride or the reluctant wife of a billionaire. She was a force. Her pearl earrings, a gift from her grandmother, felt like armor, grounding her in the lineage of strong women who had faced life's storms with grace. The very same earrings she'd worn the morning she stood alone in that bridal suite, trembling with uncertainty. As she crossed the marble steps, the buzz of whispered conversations followed her. She spotted Lily near the entrance, her mentor's bright smile a beacon of unwavering support. Nearby, Ethan stood alone, a striking figure in his tailored tuxedo, his blue eyes scanning the crowd with a mixture of anticipation and guarded hope. Sophia Moretti glided through the crowd in a scarlet dress, eyes flickering with predatory calculation as she waited for her chance to pounce. Liam, ever the golden boy, held court with socialites, his laughter rich and hollow, the charm now a mask for defeat. Emma's gaze locked with Ethan's, a silent conversation passing between them words of forgiveness, strength, and the fragile hope of what lay ahead. The gala was a whirlwind of champagne, polite smiles, and veiled glances. Emma moved with purpose, greeting patrons, gallery owners, and artists whose lives she had touched. Each introduction was a small victory, a step toward reclaiming her identity beyond the shadows of scandal. When she finally found herself beside Ethan near a Roman sculpture, the noise faded into a soft hum. "Emma," he whispered, his voice catching with emotion. "You came." "I had to," she replied softly. "We need to talk." Before Ethan could respond, Liam appeared at her side, his hand possessively resting on her elbow. "Emma, you look stunning," he said with a forced smile, eyes darting to Ethan with thinly veiled triumph. "I wasn't sure we'd see you tonight." With calm authority, Emma removed his hand. "I'm here with my husband." Ethan's eyes widened slightly at the deliberate emphasis. "Your temporary husband, you mean?" Liam's smile sharpened, dripping with sarcasm. "Given what you now know about his unusual interest in you." Emma's voice was steady as she cut him off. "I know everything now, Liam, including who really paid you to leave me at the altar." Liam's confident facade cracked for a moment. "I don't know what you're talking about." $5 million, she said clearly. "Your price for breaking my heart in public." Richard Carter's name echoed in her mind, the architect of her humiliation and the protector of a family legacy built on control. Ethan stiffened beside her, eyes blazing with silent fury. "My father did what?" Liam's golden charm snapped back into place. "Whatever he told you is a lie. I left because I discovered Ethan had been stalking you for years. I was protecting you." Emma finished the accusation for him, voice cold. "While sleeping with at least 4 other women during our engagement." A murmur of shock rippled through the nearby guests who had overheard. Liam's face flushed with anger as he realized control was slipping through his fingers. "You're making a mistake," he hissed. "Ethan isn't who you think he is." "No," Emma agreed, turning fully to face her husband. "He's more." The vulnerability in Ethan's expression made her heart ache. He looked at her as if she were a mirage that might vanish if he blinked. "We need to talk," she repeated softly, "somewhere private." Without a word, Ethan took her hand and led her away from the crowd through a side door that opened onto a small enclosed courtyard. The night sky stretched overhead, stars glittering like promises, while the sounds of the gala faded into a distant murmur. They stood facing each other, the weight of unspoken words heavy between them. "Your father came to see me," Emma began. Ethan's expression darkened. "Whatever he said—" "He showed me your journal," she interrupted gently. "Told me he paid Liam to leave me." Shock flashed across Ethan's face. "My father did that? Why would he?" "He thought I was after the Carter fortune," Emma explained. "He was trying to protect the family in his own way." "God, Emma," Ethan whispered, anguish coloring his voice. "I had no idea." "I know," she said, stepping closer until she could see the flecks of darker blue in his eyes. "I also know about the private investigator, about your collection of my work. Liam showed me." Ethan's jaw tightened. "I should have told you from the beginning." "You knew everything about me." "Not everything," he replied quietly. "I knew your work, your public persona. I didn't know the woman who challenges me, who sees through my defenses, who makes me want to be better." His sincerity made her waver. "But the hurt runs deep," she admitted. "I don't know what's real anymore, between us, in this marriage." "Everything is real," he said fiercely. "More real than anything I've ever felt." "How can I believe that? You married me under false pretenses." "You think I manipulated you?" "Was this all about family honor, corporate succession, or possessing me?" Ethan's expression darkened, visibly wounded. "Is that what you think of me? That I see you as a possession?" "I need time," she said, voice cracking. "Space to sort through this." "Where will you go?" "I still have my grandmother's house." He nodded slowly. "I'll have my driver take you in the morning." Without another word, he turned and walked away, the soft click of the study door closing behind him sounding like a verdict. Alone in the vast penthouse, Emma felt her new life shatter like fragile glass. She packed silently, tears finally flowing, not for Liam or lost love, but for Ethan and the fragile hope they'd once shared. 3 days later, a knock startled her from sleep. Opening the door revealed Richard Carter again, an unexpected visitor in her Brooklyn sanctuary. "May I come in?" he asked, as before. His presence brought new revelations and unexpected alliances as he disclosed Liam's betrayal and Ethan's vulnerable confession through his journal. The final pieces fell into place. A family torn by power struggles, a love tested by secrets, and a woman standing at the crossroads of forgiveness and strength. That night, as Emma prepared for the gala, she remembered the crocodile sunscreen, a small but steadfast symbol of protection against unforeseen storms. Tonight, she wasn't just defending her name, she was claiming her truth. And this time, no one would steal it from her. The story of Emma and Ethan is not just a dramatic love tale, but also carries valuable lessons about resilience, trust, and the power of honesty in life. One of the deepest messages is that no matter how difficult or painful life's circumstances may be, whether it's betrayal or heartbreak, we can still find a way to rise, heal, and move forward. Truth and the courage to face secrets or challenges are the keys to rebuilding trust, not only with others, but also within ourselves. The story also reminds us of the strength of true love, not just romance, but understanding, respect, and accepting each other's flaws. Sometimes, relationships start unexpectedly or even with hardship, but when nurtured with sincerity and patience, they can become the foundation for lasting happiness. For anyone going through challenges in love or life, this story is a reminder that sometimes what seems like a disaster actually holds the opportunity to discover strength and genuine love. Don't be afraid to open your heart and give yourself the chance to love and be loved in the most authentic way. As our story comes to a close, remember this: every journey, no matter how challenging, holds a promise of growth and new beginnings. Success isn't just about wealth or titles, it's about the courage to keep moving forward when the path is uncertain. Sometimes, the hardest moments teach us the most about who we truly are. So, if you're facing your own battles tonight, take heart, you're not alone, and brighter days are waiting just around the corner. Thank you for joining us on this journey. If you enjoyed the story, please give it a like and subscribe to Stories TH for more inspiring tales. We'd love to know where you're watching from and what time it is in your corner of the world. Leave a comment below and let's connect. Now, as you unwind and let the story settle in your heart, take a deep breath. Close your eyes if you like. Know that you are seen, you are valued, and your story matters. Until next time, take gentle care of yourself